now.
Laura, real quick, if I could just tell Brian and Pamela and also Jamie, one thing that I just got a message about regarding the pinning is if we have a problem, one thing that might fix it is telling Pamela how to pin herself. So to pin Brian and to pin Jamie herself. So if we have some problem in the middle, let's try that as our fix.
Perfect. Can you do that, Brian?
Sounds good.
All right, great. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the North Carolina Partnership to Address Adult Abuse. We've got some great speakers for you today, and we hope that everything goes smoothly. Thankfully, Pam Palmer is trying to keep us going here, but we're trying a little something we haven't tried before, so we may have a glitch or two. I don't know. If we do, we'll get through it for sure. But thank you all so much for joining us and for taking this opportunity to educate yourselves and to hear our great speakers today. Before we get to our speakers, we'd like to turn it over for a second to Laura Slaba, who is our secretary and has some minutes we need to approve. Laura?
Hi there, I'm Laura Slaba, secretary for the partnership. Are you able to share your screen, Pam, or do I need to share my screen for the minutes?
You can share it.
Okay. All right, so I have the meeting minutes from our last meeting, July 15th via WebEx, and happy to make any edits, corrections you guys see fit. Our guest speakers were Charlotte Ann Alexander, an attorney at law with Colombo and Kitchen and Dunn, Ball and Porter, and Jessica Spencer, the ADA for the 31st District.
This is a speed reading test.
Yeah, I was just trying to be timely. So that was the presentation from the two guest speakers. We also had member updates. There were some from the chat feature that I included, as well as updates from in person.
Great. Thank you, Laura.
Welcome.
So those are the minutes. They have been posted, so hopefully everybody had a chance to read them. Does anybody have any corrections? Laura does a great job on these, by the way. So can I get a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move it. Nancy
This
Warren.
is Kevin Robertson. I'll second it.
Great. So we've got a motion and a second on approving the minutes as written. Thank you. Now we're going to get a treasurer's report from Pam Palmer. Pam?
Okay, I am going to share. Okay, there we go. Here is the treasurer's report. As you can see, we started July 1st, 2020 with a balance of $12,991.01. We have currently organization agency dues of $100, which is student organizations. We have individual of 100, student and individual of 20. We have a website expense of 96, post office box 168, PayPal expense of $2.06, so total expenses of $266.06. We have a balance as of September 16th of $944.90. Somebody is not muted and it's driving me crazy. Sorry. $12,944.95. Let you know if you would like to join the membership and you would prefer not to pay it in, you may send me a copy of your membership application, which can be found online, and then I will send you a PayPal request so you can pay online.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Moving it. It's Nancy.
So moved.
Warren, who's second?
Ann?
Ann Elmore, thank
Yes.
you. All right, so we have the treasurer's report accepted. We'd like to move now to our speakers, and I believe Nancy Warren is going to do our introductions for us.
Yes, that's my plan. I am going to do the introductions for you. I have the real privilege this morning of introducing our speakers, Amy Wall and Kim Spahas. Amy and Wall are longtime friends of mine. I consider them colleagues and friends. I hope that's okay with you too. And they have worked very tirelessly, as long as I've known them, to improve our whole adult protective services elder abuse system in North Carolina. If you don't know them, and you'll get to know them today, and you want to get to know them. They're going to talk with us this morning. They should introduce themselves a little bit in more detail if they'd like to, but they're going to be talking with us this morning about two very important initiatives that are really allied with the vision and mission of the North Carolina Partnership to address adult abuse. So I'm excited to have them here. I'm excited to welcome them. You'll be glad to hear them. And I don't know which order you guys are going in, but it is all yours. And I will remind all of you, I'm going to be monitoring the chat box. Whether you have, if you have questions during their presentation, please put them in the chat box. I'll be monitoring it, and Kim and Amy are both very accustomed to me interrupting them from time to time. We can either do that or we can wait till they're done with their presentation, whatever seems to work right. Amy, are you going to start? Okay.
I am. That's
All
my
right.
plan.
And please mute yourselves. If you're not already, please mute yourself, because there's a big old hum.
Yeah, there's a high-pitched sort of dog whistle happening there in the background that will be migraine-inducing for some of us. I'm Amy Wall. I'm really happy to be here today and to talk with you all about some work that we've been doing at the School of Government, to answer questions that you have, because you may have already heard about it a little bit. There's some familiar faces in this group, and I know you've heard some of this spiel before, and some of you are part of the brain trust behind making it happen. So as I'm talking, as I'm sharing some stuff, please feel free to jump in and share additional thoughts, or correct me if I've missed the mark on something. So I'm here to share with you the project that we've been doing at the School of Government, and then Kim's going to be talking about a big initiative at the Conference of District Attorneys. And these really sort of happened at the same time by coincidence, but also I think it was very fortuitous, because we did a project that is very sort of bird's eye level, high level, big picture system work about elder protection in North Carolina. And Kim's project, Kim and Nancy, they worked on a project that was very, very focused on the criminal justice side of the elder protection world. And they complement each other, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to share with you both of these projects at the same time. So what I'll talk with you about is what we call affectionately the North Carolina Elder Protection Network. I'm going to start with a PowerPoint and see, can everybody see that okay? Yeah? I'm going to hide my little screen up here so that you guys aren't blocked too much. I'm going to start with the PowerPoint, and then what I'll do is I'll stop that and I'll jump over the actual live site so that you can take a look at the live site and ask questions or ask me to poke around, see if there's things that you're interested in. The genesis of this project was at the Clerks of Superior Court, who I'm sure you're all familiar with. They work in the guardianship arena. They were seeing so many cases involving elder abuse, financial exploitation, and they came to us saying that they wanted to do more to try to connect some dots and provide more information to the families and the individuals that were coming into their courthouses, and what can we do to help support that effort. So what we did, and when I say we, I'm not talking about the royal we. This was a huge effort. The lead, Meredith Smith, is my colleague who does work with the clerks, and she and I work primarily with their departments of social services and the state folks on the social services side of the house. And she and I teamed up to try to brainstorm about how we could best support that ultimate goal of connecting some dots and helping the clerks better serve their communities. So what we did is we went around the state and we interviewed a bunch of folks, did focus group and interviews all in several communities around this government officials and also with private sector nonprofits. It was a really an incredible learning experience. We came away from that with two primary lessons, which was people were frustrated with the system, whether people were reluctant to even call it a system. They felt like it was too fragmented. But as we talked with folks, we realized everybody is in this for the same reasons and they all have the same goals. But they also didn't have a great understanding of each other and the limitations on the law that governs how each component of our system can work and what their role is in the system. And when we thought about that a little bit more, it made perfect sense. So Meredith and I are both lawyers by training, and we realized all of these different pieces of our elder protection network have complex bodies of law, and it's really hard to just understand your own body of law, let alone the ones that govern everyone else who's part of your network. So what we decided to do was to help each component understand one another a little bit better. So that was the first part. And then the second part was connectivity. Trying to help figure out ways to connect the different components of the local networks as they were moving, trying to increase their connectivity, their service to their communities. So we have called it the North Carolina Elder Protection Network, connecting, informing, supporting, and that's a really that's a mission statement for what we're trying to do here. And we did it in a couple of different ways on this website. And then we have some print materials that are available for purchase, but pretty much everything that we're doing is available for free. So it was funded through a grant from the Clerks of Superior Court that they got from the federal government. And then we also have had some additional funding that came from the North Carolina General Assembly recently, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. So far, so good. We're plowing along. what I thought I would do today, the website, I put the URL up here, so protectadults.sog.unc.edu, and that is where you'll find all these resources. This is a screenshot of that website, and what I thought I would do first is actually jump out, rather than show you screenshots of the site, I'm going to jump out and take you to the actual site. And let me know, or let Nancy know in the chat if that's not working. So I'm going to jump over to the actual website, and if this doesn't work as well as showing the PowerPoint, then we can stop that and go back to the PowerPoint version. But I figured live would be a little bit better than my static screenshots. So the website is broken up into 4 basic areas, and they're all focused on this general principles of connecting, informing, and supporting. I'm going to jump into the resources first, because this is where, you know, if you're familiar with the School of Government, our mission is really to support North Carolina public officials and communities in taking care of our state. And a lot of the way we do that is through teaching and writing. And so a lot of what we've done is try to create resources that you all can use in whatever way that makes sense for you. We have a baseline of resources that we've started, but one of my asks for you today is to play around on the site, use some of these resources, and then tell us what else you need. Tell us what other resources would be helpful, and we'll try to figure out a way to do that. The goal is to make something that's useful to you. It's not just to entertain us. We want to make things that matter. So the foundation for many of these resources is this manual. So we created a book, and you can purchase the book, or you can, and the book is $30. You can see down here, you can download a PDF of it and print it off at home if you want, or you can purchase it for $30 through UNC Press. But this is the basic framework of the book. You'll see the way we've broken it up is into the different components of the network. And the other thing I would say is that it is not all encompassing. There's a lot of things that are part of our system that aren't included in here. We tried to capture big things, but we know that this is a all hands on deck sort of world, and we know we probably missed some things along the way. But this was how we broke it up. We start with adult protective services, criminal investigation and prosecution, guardianship, and then we have 2 chapters that are really focused on sort of the civil side, where one specifically dedicated to powers of attorney and the other to some civil actions that are really closely connected with the elder protection work that is happening. And then finally, and other critical components addresses some state agency work and federal agency work. The financial institutions are obviously an essential component. So they're all encompassed in here. And then what you can do is you can actually leaf through this. You can blow it up and make it bigger. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But this is a really cool... I'm going to ask folks to mute themselves. There's some feedback happening, but you can thumb through the book this way, and you can search through the book this way. You can do just search for terms up here. See in the little window, you type in your term and you search through. So I want to make a quick moment here and do a quick shout out to Kaylee Tabor. If you'll see down here, she's highlighted in the intro, and she's on the line today. She was part of a group of folks that provided some guidance and advice, or we called it the advisory committee. And I just wanted to shout out to her because I saw her on the line. So this is kind of the core, the guts of it, of the work that we did, which we love having a book. It's helpful to us. Writing the book helps us understand it and connect some dots. But we also understand that people don't necessarily have the time to sit down and read a book of this size and dig into it. So I'm going to show you some other resources that break content out a little differently. The other thing I wanted to just highlight for you all is in each chapter, you'll see at the end, one of the things that, as I mentioned, people were having a hard time understanding each other. So this chapter on adult protective services is not really intended for APS workers. They might enjoy reading it. Hopefully it'll be consistent with the work that they do and we got it right. But it's mainly intended for the other folks that are working with APS and may be confused about what their role is or how they function. So the first part of the chapter does that. And then the second part of each chapter is a sort of a call and response. We call it challenges. So this is the challenges for APS. And we highlight the challenge, we describe it, and then in the colored sections, we sort of talk about some options for addressing that challenge. So you'll notice like that the first one is determining which county is responsible. And we have a really kind of weird body of law and practice around that. So we talk about that. Deciding between APS and guardianship. What are the differences? When would you use one versus the other? Obtaining medical records. All these different little bits and pieces that that end up as being stumbling blocks, not just for APS, but for the others that are working with APS. Each chapter has a challenge or a challenges part to it. And I would say if there's a challenge we missed in your world, please let us know and we'll figure out a way to reflect it in other resources or in version 2 of this book. So that's the big piece. But then what we did is we created smaller tools, smaller reference tools. So quick references where we take information that's pulled out of the manual and consolidated into 1-pagers, 2-pagers, 3-pagers to help you all communicate with folks in your community or with partners in your group. Then you can call on these references, and it's easier, chewable pieces. I'm going to highlight one here because this was a specific request from one of our advisory committee members saying there's a lot of financial institutions who still want to, they want to help, but still nervous about what the law says and how it applies to them. And so this is a consolidated place that talks about the reporting requirements for financial institutions, when they can share information with DSS, when they can share it with law enforcement, when they can freeze secure assets, things like that. So it's just a quick reference that consolidates information. And so if you're meeting with financial institutions in your community, this could be something that you share with them and help start conversations to improve your local network. That's the goal of these quick references. So I won't go into any more detail about that. Then again, we have some more things, what we call reference lists, things that we think that people might want to just quickly jump into and take a look at. This is another place where, is there a reference list that you think we need to put up there? Send it to us. Let us know. Is there a tool that you think we should create to help you or to help your community? There's another group here. We have some flow charts because we like to play with flow charts and smart art at the School of Government. Power of attorney termination flow chart. This one is pretty exciting because that's just a mess. It's hard for people who don't work in this on a regular basis to navigate it. And so this is the thumbnail sketch of how that works. I noticed you had a speaker last week at your last meeting that addressed this, and it looked like that was great content. The idea here is to boil it down into a very short resource. There's a public brochure about elder abuse. This was something the clerks had requested, which is to you can download it and then fill in your county's information, and including contact information for the right people in your county about who to reach out to. So if you want to use this, you're welcome to do so. Hello?
We're still here, Amy.
Okay, something's happening there. I can't really hear very well. Could someone mute Jones, please?
Sounds better. Thank you. Amy? Uh-oh. Amy
Hold on.
Wall? Oh,
Hold
there
on.
you
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good, good. Okay, so here we go. Let's jump back in. Nancy, have any questions come in that I should address?
Well, I was wondering if you would you recommend that functioning MDTs download or purchase this book and use it as part of their meetings somehow? It seems like there's an enormous amount of information that would be good to share with others.
Well, I'm not going to sell my book to you all. That's not why I'm here. But I will say that, you know, it is available for free, and part of the goal was to help folks understand one another and create a baseline of knowledge that is common across everyone participating in an MDT, or if you don't have an MDT, just in the network in your community that is taking care of older adults. So part of the reason we wanted to make it free was that we know that people are going to come at this at different times. They may need just small parts. So you can certainly buy it. It's being sold at cost, but we also created, I'm sorry, that feedback is pretty intense.
I'm so sorry. Jane Jones is signed in like 3 times. I keep muting her and it's not working. I don't know.
Okay, it sounds like it's okay
exactly.
now. Okay, all right. Oh no, there it is again. Okay, so we did actually also develop some specific materials. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Can you? Okay. We did develop some specific materials for MDTs, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute because one of the things that we heard was MDTs need to, first of all, understand one another, but they also need to create an opportunity, a space for them to connect on a regular basis. They really need to have an opportunity to share with one another, plan, and coordinate their efforts. And yes, they can do that in Google. They can set up a Google, but what they can't do is regularly update themselves in a way that is recognizes the turnover that many of our MDTs experience. So one of the things on our website, and I'm going to jump over to that section, is a multidisciplinary team area. So I'm going to log myself in. I'm pretending to be a member of Wilson County's MDT. And this is my profile. And I can go to my MDT space. And everyone on the Wilson County MDT, which they aren't on their site yet, but they can come in here. They can register as a user. Their coordinator can add them to the site, and then they can schedule meetings. They can share documents with one another. They can have their own mission statement, their vision statement. They can have a list of tasks that need to happen in the MDT to move their projects forward and whatever they're doing. So this is an administrative space on the website for the MDTs. What they can also do is share information with one another on our forum. And this is a place, it's like a listserv on steroids is the idea here, where we have different topic areas and people can post questions. They can answer each other's questions. And then in the MDT, you can tag, you can pin one of the questions, one of the issues to your MDT space so that you can have a conversation about it in your MDT and say, is this happening here? Or this happened last month and that we did it wrong. You know, you can have a conversation with your MDT more specifically about things that are coming up in this statewide discussion community. And so my next ask for you all is join this website and start contributing to this forum, because it is absolutely essential that content gets up here that starts conversation. So people start looking to one another, looking to this space, and finding a common ground where they can ask questions, ask stupid questions, ask hard questions, share stories, and start building a statewide community that makes our ability to protect older adults at the local level even better. So this is where the statewide community will come together. So the MDT space is for your local community, and then the forum is for the statewide community. So there's another area of our website that you may find helpful. And as Nancy, I think, just put a note in the chat saying, join the website if you haven't. But this is where you can join the website, and then you'll show up basically in this directory of peers. All these people have signed up. We have, I don't know, 400 plus folks in the website now. And you can search through the people who are on here. So there's someone you saw in a meeting and you want to find them and get their contact information because you know they work in this field. Or you want to find someone who is a particular expertise or is in a particular county. You have a case that came up in Catawba County, and you want to reach out to somebody there. Is there anybody registered that you can track down? So yeah, there's a couple of folks. So let's see who we can reach out to. So there's this find your peers function. And then if the county has established an MDT, they have, or at least they have a coordinator who's planning to establish one. They have made their county go orange on this website. So this is an opportunity for us to create some peer pressure around the state, I guess, to find the counties that have gone orange and created a system for protecting, or an MDT system. And when we're using the term MDT, we're using it very, very broadly. We're using it to refer to any kind of group that is involved with coordinating around sharing and protecting adults. It is not any one particular kind of MDT. It is all kinds of MDT. Sometimes they're really focused on education, and sometimes they're focused on case review. Sometimes they're focused on very specific issues in their community. This is intended to kind of meet all those needs, and we're hoping that the resources on this site will grow over time to not just support MDTs, but all the needs that you have. So the focus right now is around MDTs, but we're ready to grow. I wanted to also show you this bowl of spaghetti that we created. This is our attempt to illustrate what the roadmap, our system of elder protection is in the state. I wish it was a nice tidy flow chart, but it does end up looking more like a bowl of spaghetti. But you'll see here everything in pink is sort of the APS side, green is guardianship, blue is your law enforcement, and gray is the financial institutions. And as you all know, there's a ton more to this system. This is a beginning snapshot trying to show what they do and how they connect with one another. So I wanted to mention that to you. There's a animated version on the website, but it is, we're growing. And there's going to be some case studies on the website as well that work their way through the roadmap and connect with different content that's on the site. But you know, we're adding things as we go. This is a work in progress. So I already mentioned some of my asks for you today. Please spread the word about the site. Please post to the forum, start engaging around this. You guys are the experts. You've been working in this field for a long while and in different capacities. And the more knowledge you can share with the rest of the statewide community, the better. And let's start getting a baseline of information across the state that's consistent. And then if you have someone in your community that is starting an MDT, I was going to mention that we have additional funding now to do some more MDT training. We had training last year where we brought in 8 MDTs from around the state, and we kind of jump started them a little bit, got them thinking about group formation, some of their goals, how they were going to work together. We were going to do another in-person cohort this year, but circumstances did not cooperate. So now we're going to do an online cohort, and application period is now open. Teams need to apply together to be part of this cohort. It is free. There'll be several live workshops, another one in October, November, and December. There's a recorded one on our website now from last week that's sort of the introduction to MDTs. We'll also have some recorded asynchronous training modules that we'll make available to the cohort. We have a facilitation, a faculty member who with some expertise in group facilitation and group dynamics, and she's willing to come and participate in your meetings during this cohort period as part of the funding and help move the ball forward in your communities. And then we also can provide technical assistance, not just through our website, but specifically if there are issues that come up, we're happy to support that. So I provided a link here to how you apply for that cohort. You can also find it through our website under the resources tab at the top. There's a place where you can apply. So I just wanted to point that out to you all. If you don't have an MDT in your community and you think that one could get started, they have just a little while to apply, I think another week or so. So they got to get moving. It's a really easy application, nothing too fancy, but we would love to see as many folks in this cohort as we can. So let's see, it looks like we have a, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of questions. So, all right. So I'd like you to say something about the program. I think it's NC Impact that's on UNC on public TV tomorrow night. Can you say something?
Oh, yeah. I'd love to. So yeah, yesterday, or I'm on the time space continuum. I'm out of whack. On Monday, they recorded an episode of a program, a TV program that we do out of the School of Government called NC Impact. And my colleague, Anita Brown-Graham, who runs an initiative called NC Impact that looks at issues, big picture policy issues affecting our whole state. They decided they wanted to highlight elder protection, elder abuse as a main issue for this particular episode. So as part of that, they went and they did some focused interviews in Johnston County and talked with people involved with the work in Johnston County, talked about the MDT out there. And then they also had a panel of Meredith Smith, my colleague, and Marjorie Brown from Cabarrus County, a private attorney, GAL, and Scott Sluter, who's a detective from Winston-Salem. And they just had a conversation about some of the issues that are going on and things that can, oh, there we go. Air date, September 17th at 8 p.m. Look at you, Kevin. Excellent. Yes, so it's going to be premiered tomorrow. Or is that today? No, tomorrow, 17th. I told you, I've lost all sense of time and space. But it'll be on UNC TV. And it's at 8 p.m., but it'll also be available, I think, on demand on UNC TV's website. It was recorded via Facebook Live, so that's why it was filmed on Monday. And it's a good program. I think that it'll be a good communication tool for folks in your community. So please take a look and share it with others. And
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for being our advertising there.
Yes, that's right. One of the questions asked was, what if you're part of a statewide agency? Is there some way to list yourself, your agency, as a resource across all counties?
Yes. So in that Find Your Peers page, there is just the Find Your Peers directory. So as a statewide person, you would go into that directory and you wouldn't be identified with a particular county. The map is just associated with the MDTs. So it wouldn't be, for example, John, it wouldn't come up like if I clicked on, I wanted to see everyone in Cabarrus County, I clicked on Cabarrus County, you would come up. That's not going to happen, but they can search for Secretary of State and it would pull up your information. So it does a term search, a text search. So that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And I wondered too, do you have any thought in mind, or is it part of the grant to increase the number of MDTs by a certain amount?
Yeah, no, we don't have a target. We really feel like we need to meet the communities where they are, and many are not in a position to get moving on an MDT right now for whatever reason. So that's why these resources are kind of available to everyone. Our goal with this particular project, this new cohort that will be happening this fall, we'd like to bring in between 8 and 12 new teams. And then the teams that were part of last year's cohort are also going to be able to come back and sort of refresh their skills and start building this learning community among themselves. And we'll give them space to work together as a team and refresh some of their energy or deal with some of their stumbling blocks. So
Great. Amy, Pam asked me to put and I think it's a good idea to put a website in the chat box, but I don't have it right handy to put in the chat box in a second, but if we can do that, that would be helpful.
I'm putting it in right now. I can't believe you don't have it memorized off the top of your head and using it every other minute. Come on, Nancy.
This is what retirement does for you, Amy.
So that is the website. On every single page of that website, I've said a couple of times, this is a work in progress. Please share your feedback. Every single page of that site has a contact us button at the bottom, and we actually want you to use that. It's not bothering us if you see a technical glitch. If as you're surfing, you say, I wish you had this, please click on contact us and send it, because it's going to come straight to me and Meredith. It's not going to go to some IT person out in the ether. It's going to come to us, and we're going to keep track of that. So we already have a long wish list and of things that we want to do, but we want to add stuff that will be really useful to you all.
Great. Any more questions? I don't think I have any more questions in the chat box. If you have anything that comes to your mind, go ahead and chat. I'm trying to keep track.
Always to me individually. My contact information is on the School of Government's website. I'm happy to talk with any of y'all anytime.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Kim, are you ready? Stay up.
I am. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Is everybody good? Can you see? Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me, representing the Conference of DAs, to share with you all. I want to start by giving just a little bit of information about the Conference of DAs before I get specifically into the new manual and new resource that we have created for prosecutors. I know that several people on the call are familiar with the conference and have been to trainings that we've offered, but just to give you a little bit of information about the Conference of DAs, we are a state agency and we were established in 1983. The Conference of DAs is actually the 43 elected district attorneys in our state. And statutorily, that is who comprises the conference. Oftentimes people think about the staff and they think about my boss, Peg Dorr, or me, or the other resource prosecutors that we have at the Conference of DAs as the conference. But truthfully, the Conference of DAs statutorily and practically is the 43 elected district attorneys. In addition to those 43 elected district attorneys, we have 648 state-funded assistant district attorneys across the state. So in 100 counties, we have, in addition to the 43 elected, 648 assistant district attorneys. And then there are currently 47 other grant-funded assistant district attorneys who serve in a variety of capacities. Most of those grant-funded assistant district attorneys can only do specific work as outlined and detailed in their grant. Now, in addition to the prosecutors that work in the DA's offices, we have several other administrative professionals that have different titles. 383 of those are legal assistants. Some of those legal assistants provide victim services work as well, but their general title is legal assistant. We have 150 victim service coordinators who focus completely on providing direct victim services. And those 150 victim service coordinators are grant funded positions. And so at some point, that grant will not be renewed. We're very nervous about that because having those 150 victim service coordinators that focus specifically on providing direct services to victims is critical to the work of the prosecutors across our state. We also have 38 investigators that work in DA's offices, and those 38 investigators range in the type of work they do from administrative work to actual investigations. Some of those investigators are former law enforcement officers who still are currently sworn with a sheriff's department or a local police department. We have 49 administrative assistants across the state, and those folks usually serve in an office manager type role. And then we have 10 positions that are criminal docket managers, and those are to assist with the dockets. And then the Conference of DAs has a staff in Raleigh, and then we also have some staff that works regionally. When we think about the district attorneys, really the 43 DAs who comprise the conference, what their responsibilities are is defined by the North Carolina Constitution, and then it's teased out a little more by the statutes in North Carolina. So one of the responsibilities given statutorily is to prepare the trial dockets. That's important specifically to the elder abuse and exploitation cases because prosecutors in North Carolina, which is very different from the vast majority of other states, control the calendaring of cases. In most states, the prosecutor does not have the primary role of calendaring cases, but here in North Carolina, we do. And because we have that ability, it means that we are able to look at the cases that we have and make the determination about what cases need to be calendared first and when they need to be calendared for trial. And all of you know, working in this particular area, how important it is for us to move the cases of elder abuse and elder exploitation through the criminal system as quickly as we can, because our victims and oftentimes even other witnesses are older or may have other cognitive disabilities. In addition to preparing the dockets, prosecutors in North Carolina prosecute all criminal offenses. So that includes elder exploitation, of course, and elder abuse. We prosecute all traffic offenses, all juvenile cases, and we are statutorily required to advise law enforcement in our district. And the reason that I want to share and concentrate on preparing the dockets, prosecuting criminal cases, and advising law enforcement is because all three of those functions directly apply to criminal cases where older or disabled people are the victims of crime. Here at the Conference of District Attorneys, our mission is to serve the office of district attorney. So the staff here at the conference works closely to help district attorneys in their pursuit of justice and also to improve the administration of criminal law to benefit the people of North Carolina. That's a huge task, and with it comes many challenges, and I wanted to share a few of those with you. First, we have 100 counties in North Carolina. I shared with you the number of prosecutors and administrative professional staff that we have that serve over those 100 counties. But what you may not know is that we have districts, prosecutorial districts, and they range from districts that have 7 counties, as you can see in the northeast part of our state. And that's also true. There's a 7-county district in the far western part of our state. And then we have some districts that are made up of single counties. Another challenge is the population of these different districts. So we have our smallest district is Anson and Richmond counties, and that 2-county district has about 69,000 people. And then, of course, both Mecklenburg County and Wake County, who are single county districts, have over 1 million people. So when you look at the way that North Carolina structures the prosecutorial districts, that presents a challenge for the staff at the Conference of District Attorneys, because we're working diligently to serve districts and help prosecutors and the administrative staff in their office. But those offices are so different, and the resources that are available to them on a local level are very different as well, because the smallest staff that we have at a DA's office is 9, and that includes both prosecutors and victim service coordinators, legal assistants, and other administrative professionals. And then our largest staff is in Charlotte, and they have 121 total employees. And so you can see that from the different districts, both from the populations that those DAs and assistant DAs and administrative professionals serve, and from the resources they have in their office, there is a great difference. In addition to that, at the Conference of DAs, we work to provide resources not just for the DA's office and the staff in the DA's office, but for other allied professionals. And a huge group of that allied professionals include law enforcement. And so statewide, we have over 500 law enforcement agencies, over 33,000 officers. And then at the Conference of DAs, we work with over 50 state agencies in a variety of areas of criminal law. So there's lots of challenges that we face. Another very practical challenge that we face here at the conference, trying to provide resources across the state, but also that each district attorney's office faces, is the huge turnover of prosecutors. So right now, the latest statistic, which I pulled about 6 weeks ago, is that 50% of our prosecutors in our state have less than 5 years experience. So when 50% of our prosecutors have less than 5 years experience, then most of those prosecutors have not handled significant cases in Superior Court, and the vast majority of them have little, if any, experience specific to elder abuse, elder exploitation, or working with older or disabled victims. So I've talked a little bit about the staff that we have at the conference, and I want to give you just a really quick snapshot. This is our resource professional staff. Most of the people on this page are resource prosecutors, but not all of them. So I supervise the prosecutor and resource staff in our office, and I use that word very loosely because everyone on our team is so competent and has so much experience. They need so little supervision. They're excellent at what they do. Sarah Garner is our traffic safety resource prosecutor, and she has a team that works regionally across the state. Amber Barwick specializes in domestic and sexual violence. Rachel Larson specializes in juvenile crime, and Whitney Bellich specializes in child abuse. Lisa Coltrane is the newest member of our resource prosecutor staff, and her focus is on homicide and arson cases. Chuck Spejas, who the last name may sound familiar, I got him to move all the way from the state of Georgia here to North Carolina, and he manages our financial crime unit, and that is a regional team as well, with prosecutors placed across the state, 2 other prosecutors in addition to Chuck to handle financial crime cases. And then Megan Lively, who's actually on this call, she oversees all of our victim services, both our direct victim services in the cases that these prosecutors on this screen take, but also she trains all of the victim service providers and administrative professionals and provides technical assistance to them across the state. So some of these folks may be people that you need to talk to, and that's why I wanted you to have both a face and a name. Probably the people that will be able to provide you the most resources are Amber Barwick, focusing in domestic and sexual assault. And as we all know, there is a rise in domestic and sexual assault among older populations, and there continues to be significant numbers of disabled victims who fall prey to sexual violence. Lisa Coltrane, specializing in homicide, would also maybe be a resource for you if you have a case that you know about. If an MDT is working on a case and the prosecutor that's serving on that MDT has some questions regarding a homicide of an older adult or a disabled adult, Lisa would be a resource for you. Chuck Spahas and his team, a huge resource in the area of exploitation of our older adults, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. And then, of course, Megan Lively as it relates to victim services. The goals of our staff at the Conference of District Attorneys are really twofold, and they're very broad. The first is our mantra that the state is always ready. Because we do have the special responsibility in North Carolina to calendar cases, it's also really important that we are prepared when those cases are on the calendar. And the next is to promote both efficiency and effectiveness in all criminal prosecutions across the state. We do that in a variety of ways. The broadest categories are listed on this screen in front of you now. We provide training, technical assistance, publish manuals and other publications. We provide, every one of those people that I showed you on the previous slide provides special prosecution work and handles conflict cases and also other cases of first impression. And we monitor the legislature and often advocate either for or against criminal law and procedure changes. I share this with you because I think it's important for you to know the work that we do generally, but also how it specifically applies to elder abuse and exploitation. And now I want to get into briefly just some of the work that we've done previously. Training. As it relates to elder abuse and exploitation, we provide multidisciplinary workshops and programs, beginning with our first multidisciplinary training in 2011, 2012. We've continued every year to have either standalone programs or oftentimes standalone programs and other offerings at our larger conferences as breakout sessions on victims that are older or are disabled. Here in front of you are just a brief list of a few of the topic areas that we've covered. In addition, Megan, who I mentioned just a few minutes ago, started a focused training about 3 years ago on working with special victims. That program is usually offered once or twice a year, and it always includes a section on working with older and disabled victims. So we know that this is an area of victim growth in our state. We know that our older adult population is our largest growing population, and because of that, it is going to be our largest growing or one of our largest growing victims population. So this is the training that we've provided in the past. I also mentioned that we provide technical assistance. I think our technical assistance numbers are important for you to understand because I want you to know why we've made some choices about moving forward with specific changes to our approach to elder exploitation and abuse cases. In 2018, we had a 225% increase in technical assistance requests from prosecutors, law enforcement, and victim service providers across our state that were specific to elder abuse and exploitation. When we saw that number go up, we knew three things. First, we knew that the crime in this area was either increasing or the charges were increasing or the investigations were increasing. Two, we knew that the training that we were providing was having an impact on the interest and the capability that prosecutors across the state had to handle these cases because they were learning more, therefore they were proceeding more on these cases. And three, we knew that we had a lot more work to do in providing information and resources to prosecutors. So in 2018, when we saw this sharp increase, we looked at the publications and the manuals that we provide, and we recognized that we did not have a prosecution manual that focused specifically on the prosecution of elder abuse and elder exploitation. And so we decided we needed to do that. And we started looking for a way to fund that. We found a grant that helped start that process, and then we have allocated other funds that we had at the Conference of DAs and moved them around to make them available to finish this project. This increased in 2019, and in 2019, we saw a 375% increase in the request for technical assistance on these particular areas. In addition, so we knew we were hitting the mark. We knew we needed to put together this prosecution resource for the prosecutors across our state, because we saw that the request that they were having for assistance from our office was increasing. So we needed to give them a practical guide to help them with these types of cases. The other thing that these questions gave us was an outline for several of the areas that needed to be included in the prosecution manual, because we knew the questions that we were being asked, the resources we were providing, and so we knew what areas prosecutors had a lot of questions. I mentioned before that Chuck manages our financial crime unit, and that unit takes all types of financial crime cases at the request of elected district attorneys across the state. So I wanted to give you a few numbers from his team, just his team. So there are 3 people on his team: Chuck, Jordan Ford, who really serves from Raleigh East, and then we have Scott Harkey, who works from the Greensboro area West. Just in their team, just that special prosecution unit in 2019, 50% of the victims from that team, from the criminal cases, were older than 65. And so we're seeing a huge increase in that financial crime unit taking cases of elder exploitation and the exploitation of older adults. One of the other things I mentioned to you that we put together are publications and manuals. And I've already shared with you, I've kind of ruined the surprise that we did not have and do not have an elder abuse and exploitation manual. But we were printing and offering resources in our magazine on these issues. So 3 times a year, we put out a magazine to prosecutors and the staff in the DA's offices across the state. And in 4 of the last 6 issues have had articles that focus on elder abuse or exploitation, including the front page of our kickoff magazine of January this year, focused on the top 10 things that New Year's resolutions that prosecutors should make as it relates to stopping exploitation of older adults. And so we have been continuing to promote in this magazine and keeping in the forefront of the prosecutors' minds the prosecution of these types of cases and the issues that they may face. So all of this showed us, as I mentioned, that we needed to put together a practical guide for prosecutors, and that's our new resource. And if you notice, the first slide of this presentation said new resource and renewed mindset. We really want to keep it in the forefront of the prosecutors' minds how important these cases are, and we want to do that by writing on this issue, by training on this issue, and by providing additional resources. And so we recognized that we needed to put together an elder abuse and exploitation practical guide to prosecutors, and it really is just that. It's a practical guide. That was certainly not something that I felt like that I could do by myself, nor is it something that I should do by myself. I am not an expert in this area, and we needed to bring together many people to make this happen, and I want to give credit to those people now. So I, having had a relationship and a friendship, as Nancy mentioned earlier, with Nancy Warren, knowing that she had retired, if you will, from her formal job, reached out to Nancy and asked her if she would be the project director for our committee to put together this manual. She jumped at the opportunity because, as many of you know, you've heard me speak before and say that Nancy came knocking, and she continued until it was almost a banging, until she was heard to get the Conference of DAs to start focusing in this area. So Nancy jumped on board. And Mary Hill, who I call here the master of all things, she has done a vast majority of the administrative work on our manual. There were several prosecutors that were involved in both meeting and drafting and editing this manual. Of course, Amy, who just shared with you the amazing resources that they have at the School of Government. And she also mentioned that she and her and Meredith and other colleagues at the School of Government had started putting together the clerk's manual at the same time. So it was really reassuring to me when Amy reached out and said, I heard y'all were doing a manual. We're doing a manual for the clerks, that we all recognize in the criminal justice system that this is an area of spaghetti, and that we need to figure out a way that we can separate out the important things and really educate people in the criminal justice system. And so Amy provided an enormous amount of information and shared with us several chapters of the clerk's manual that was also relevant for the prosecutors. And so that was a lot of work we didn't have to do. Miss Dorsey and Miss Hamlet also worked together with us. You see that I have David Kirkman, who you all know, a guru of all things. He provided us a lot of information. Scott Sluter, who's also already been mentioned with Winston-Salem Police Department, and Sarah Mana-Smith from the Division of Aging and Adult Services. Now, many of you probably think I skipped over John Marin, but I didn't. I wanted to save him for last because I want to mention how dedicated he has been from the beginning of the Conference of District Attorneys' focus on elder abuse and exploitation. From the beginning of us starting our first multidisciplinary training through this arduous process of drafting and editing this manual, John has been absolutely invaluable. He would regularly say to us, I don't know if I know anything about this particular area, and then he would offer us 15 suggestions that were all so important. And so we've been so grateful to have John and the Secretary of State's office as a partner. And I see that Ann's on the call as well, and I know that she drafted some of the material that John brought forth to the committee, so I appreciate that as well, Ann. Thank you. So I want to tell you a little bit about the manual. I know my time's running short, but I want to give you a little bit of information about the kind of content that's covered in this manual. It is an in-depth, very practical, hands-on, how-to prosecution manual. It begins with a background and overview, much of which we were able to steal with permission straight from Amy's manual. It includes a lot of terminology and context of elder abuse, and also the problem statewide. Our committee felt like it was really important for us to put together a manual that if a prosecutor had handled several of these cases or had never handled one of these cases at all, that they could go to this one-stop shop and get what they needed. And so we felt like it was really important. While in most of our manuals, we don't include this background and overview piece, we felt like for this area of prosecution, while it is not new, it certainly is not as common and trained upon as impaired driving, for example, or even domestic violence. And so we wanted to include this block of background and overview. So if it was someone brand new handling one of these cases, they could go get some of that contextual information. Then we move into an investigation component, and that piece is there for two reasons. One, as I mentioned previously, statutorily, the district attorneys are responsible for advising law enforcement in their district, and we wanted prosecutors to have the tools that they needed to provide information to law enforcement during the investigative phase. So if a law enforcement officer was to call the DA's office, which they do often in many types of cases, and which we encourage them to do, we wanted the DA's office to be able to go to this section and give them some information about the investigative tips and tools that they need and that they could use as a resource as well. Because just like not a lot of prosecutors have handled a bunch of these cases, not a lot of law enforcement have investigated many of these cases as well. And there are some nuances and some specific things that you need to pay attention to. And Scott Sluter and John, again, were able to provide us a lot of information for this section. Next is a pretrial component. And in that pretrial component of the manual, it includes all the criminal statutes and a section on charging decisions. And that section on charging decisions, we felt like it was so important to make sure that we included laws in North Carolina that were specific to elder and disabled adults, whether it was assaults or exploitation, but also that we included a bunch of criminal statutes that we have that are not specific to older adults, but still may apply. And so we wanted prosecutors to know what tools were there in their toolbox as far as charging decisions. And we also included a lot of things that they need to think about early on in the pretrial phase, including competency and capacity issues, evidence, and other information related to the types of evidence that they might need to glean in the pretrial phase if they were not already in their toolbox. We included an entire section on pretrial motions, including example motions that the state should think about filing and common motions that they would probably see from the defense being filed, so that the prosecutors would be up to speed on the types of arguments that they could expect. And we have a whole section in this particular area of the manual on witness preparation, how to meet with victims and witnesses, when to meet with them, what's important to talk to them about, the time frame of when those types of preparation meetings should occur. And we also included a section here on alternative remedies. Oftentimes as prosecutors, we seem to focus just on the state criminal laws and what's available to us. And in the area of elder abuse and exploitation, there are lots of other alternative remedies. And that doesn't mean it has to be to the exception of the criminal charges, but sometimes it's to the addition. And so we want prosecutors to know about that. And then our last section is a trial section, and it goes through from jury selection all the way to sentencing and includes each component of a trial and specific things that prosecutors need to think about, consider arguing, consider preparing for as it relates to these types of cases. And then one of the areas we're most proud of in this particular manual is the appendix. And the appendix is about as big as the manual is, about as many pages. And I think that's a good thing because it means that we were able to include lots of other information, including a huge area on the Secretary of State and on potential federal prosecutions, and also a lot of sample questions that you may need to ask particular experts in these types of cases or potential jury selection topics that you would want to consider. And so we feel really good about that appendix section and the form section that is specific to elder abuse and exploitation. So when's this thing going to be coming out? That's what Nancy asks me all the time. We've been working on it forever. It's definitely going to be released in 2020. So we only have a couple of months left, and it will go to all DA's offices. Multiple copies will go to every district attorney's office. Also, what will be coming out early in 2021 in our renewed mindset of focus on elder abuse and exploitation is a quick reference guide for patrol officers. We have put out several quick reference guides, primers, if you will, for patrol officers on a variety of different criminal law investigative topics. And we felt like this was an area that patrol officers really need a guide. It won't be detailed. It's going to be a laminated card that will fit on the top of their visor in their patrol car. But oftentimes patrol officers, whether they be deputies or local law enforcement, are the first people to be called out to a scene before it's turned over to a detective or to an investigative division, if it's ever turned over to that division. So we felt really strongly that we needed to give a list of areas that a patrol officer who has very little experience in this particular type of investigations, or maybe in investigations at all, need to look for in these cases. And so you can see here some of the areas that will be covered on that quick reference guide, and that's going to be released early 2021, and multiple copies will go to every sheriff's department and every police department, and they will be able to request additional copies as needed. Another thing that's new for 2021 is we applied for and received a grant to do a specific training on sexual assault of older and disabled adults. And so in April of 2021, there'll be a program. We're hoping that it will be a live program. It'll be a multidisciplinary program, so it will be open to prosecutors, law enforcement, adult protective services, and other allied professionals in the area, and we'll focus on the area of sexual assault of older and disabled adults. The next component that I talked to you about that prosecutors focus on and that the Conference of DAs really focuses on is legislation. And I want to share with you one area that's really important to us here at the conference that we've identified that we need legislation regarding this topic in North Carolina, and that's on depositions in cases. I had an intern from my law school prosecution advocacy class at Campbell who did his rigorous writing requirement last year on 2 components of elder abuse laws and tools in North Carolina. One of them was undue influence and what our case law says about that, and also a compilation of what the other states in our country say about undue influence and testimony. And the other component was depositions. So much testimony in these types of cases can be and is being lost because the wheels of justice, as you all know, even though prosecutors have the ability to calendar cases in our state, we do not have the ability to rule on continuances, and cases often are, it takes a long time from the time they're charged until the time they are disposed of. And particularly with these types of cases, it's really important that we're able to memorialize the testimony of the victim and oftentimes of witnesses early on in this process, because many of them, as I mentioned before, and as you all know, are older and they're aging just like we all are every day. And they are developing more and more, oftentimes, cognitive disorders, not always, but sometimes. And so we want to be able to memorialize their testimony. In North Carolina, depositions are very common in civil cases. But what you might not know is the law in North Carolina in criminal cases only allows depositions by the defense. So there are, and that's pretty common across the country. I didn't know that until my intern did the legal research, but it's pretty common across the country that in criminal cases, depositions are available only to the defense or to the defense first and only to the prosecution if the defense requests. And so we're looking at this. There's a few states that have some model legislation that we're looking at. Georgia passed a statute in 2013. It's a little more narrow than we want. It allows for the deposition as a matter of right if the person is 72 years old or older. So we are looking to try to make that any victim or witness in any case, not just elder abuse and exploitation cases, but in any case, if they're older than 60, we want to be able to request and as a matter of right, depose and memorialize the testimony of those witnesses. So look for that as something that will be coming. Okay, I know my time's almost up. I know I've covered a lot. If anybody has any questions, I think, Nancy, there's been a few in the chat. So if you could share with me any questions that I can answer, I would appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kim. I'm always so stunned every time I hear you and Amy talk about how much I learn again. It's like, how many times do I have to listen to y'all before I get it all? But I'll just have to continue to listen. One of the questions is, when you were listing the trainings, are these trainings strictly for DA staff or are they open to anyone?
The vast majority of them are open to anyone. The any standalone course that we do, and by that I mean topic specific course, is open multidisciplinary. And so we advertise it on our website. And then also we often send it out to allied partners and people that have attended previously. The only programs that we have that are only open to prosecutors and their staff are our two large conferences. One happens in June every year and one happens in October every year. And usually those programs may have one breakout session that would be relevant to elder abuse and exploitation. But those standalone courses, like the one I mentioned that will be in April of 2021, are definitely open to everyone. And they're free.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, please say the magic word, Kim, because
free.
free. I know. And so those of you who need training or are, you know, your county budgets are going to be whammed by all of this COVID pandemic mess. You need to know that these kinds of trainings that are offered by the conference are free. And when they say free, they mean that there's not a tuition. They compensate you for travel. And is that still true?
Well, Nancy, if we have a grant, we compensate for travel, and we make sure that we make that clear in the information that we send out, whether travel and meals will be compensated or not. Oftentimes they are, but even if they're not, there's no registration fee. We never stay at a hotel that costs more than the state rate ever. And so oftentimes everything's reimbursed for you. And sometimes even if it's not, there's no registration fee and it's very low cost. One other training I did not mention, in case you see it on our website, that is not open to everyone, is our administrative professional seminar. That's the big program for the victim service coordinators and the administrative staff of the DA's offices. And that's only open for our staff as well. But everything else is open for anyone.
The other question that was raised was about, so given this manual and it's being released and published, can you imagine some ideas for doing a better job of local collaboration between APS and DA and law enforcement, given this new resource?
I think there are a lot of opportunities, Nancy, and we've tried to capitalize on some of them in the past, and there's some we need to redo. It was my hope this year at the Electeds Conference, which we didn't have, either their spring conference or their fall conference, to be able to get together with the DAs and get that direct point of contact for APS in each office like we did several years ago. It's time to update that. And so we need to do that. That's one way to have a direct one-on-one person that APS knows they're supposed to send the reports to this particular person, and they know that that's their contact person in the DA's office. So we need to get that updated again. I also believe that the MDTs that Amy was speaking about is an awesome way for local collaboration. And I'd like to see us do more regional training at the conference level, which I think also provides a better way to work together, if you will, because you're meeting in smaller groups and training in smaller groups. So I think that's a good way. And then knowing that these manuals are going to go out, I'll just tell you that there is a lot of information in these manuals in the overview section about APS, what APS is, how they can help you, why you should contact them, the work that they do, the things that they have access to that you don't have access to as a prosecutor, and that oftentimes law enforcement will not have access to, that you need to get your hands on. And there is a whole section in the pretrial section and the trial section on working with APS pre-trial and during trial. So I think that will serve as a reminder and also an encouragement to bridge those gaps.
Great. I think those are the questions that I've gotten in the chat box, Kim.
Wonderful. Well, here's my contact information. As always, it's such an honor to be a part of your group and also to share with you some of the things we're doing. And I'm open for every idea you have. So anything that you can think of that you think we should be doing, and there's a long list of it, please feel free to share it. And please know that we want to work with you. And so reach out to me if there's anything I can do. I'm happy to help.
Okay. Thank you. And Pam is saying that the PowerPoints are going to be posted on the website, and that'll be good. Okay. All right. And of course, if you have any questions afterwards and it comes to your mind, I guess too, Kim, if somebody's struggling with getting participation of like an ADA or maybe even a victim services person from your local DA's office to participate in your MDT, could they talk to you or ask you about that? Or
absolutely, and I'm happy to help connect people. Sometimes people are frustrated because they feel like that maybe the DA's office doesn't want to participate or is not being involved. And a lot of times it has to do with just getting in touch with the right person, just like it does at APS, right? If you get in touch with the right person, you can make things happen. And so please reach out to me if you're having those issues. I'm happy to help connect you and talk to people on the prosecution side about NBTs and joining those. Also, if you are having issues with cases, you always want to work directly with your DA's office. I know that Kaylee is on this call as well, and she is known by the APS professionals in her county as being an approachable prosecutor who fights hard in these types of cases. But if you are having questions and you don't know who to call at the DA's office, please reach out to me and I'm happy to help connect you with somebody at the office. And if you're talking to a prosecutor on a pending case, and in about another month and a half, this manual should be out. So in early 21 or anytime after that, if you're talking to a prosecutor and you mention the elder abuse and exploitation manual, do they have that? You think maybe the information might be covered there? If they say no, you tell them to call me or you call me and I'll make sure we get out another manual to them.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kim. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks to Kim and Amy both. I mean, that was great information. Both your presentations were excellent. And I know everybody will benefit from knowing this information.
Laura, before we move on, I've had a request that kind of in connection or in relation to what Amy and Kim have talked about this morning. John asked if he could have a minute just to talk about the Help Bull project, which is also, a project that's going on that is connecting APS and, crimes committed and such. Can we take a minute for that?
We can if he doesn't want to wait for the member updates to share it. John, do you want to go ahead? John? We'll give him just a second to unmute maybe.
Hi, Laura, since John is not here, this is Ann Elmore with the Secretary of State's office as well. I could step in just a moment and speak about the Helpful Pilot Project. That is with the U.S. Department of Justice. It's a pilot project through them. And it started out as a program or a platform to connect financial institutions, particularly those related to investments, broker dealers, that kind of thing, to APS and the regulator in the state. So we've been working on that. It's a platform where you can communicate both ways up and down the channel. And all of our APS offices are connected. And as complaints come in, they should be receiving those. And we are as well. And that's opened a collaboration between Adult Protective Services and the Secretary of State's office. And we're hoping to move that also to the platform. But meanwhile, we're also working outside the platform. Recently, we've been delighted to have the addition of Kim Spahos on behalf of the North Carolina Conference of District Attorneys to collaborate and participate. We're hoping to expand in the coming months and year the number and variety of participants in this platform to facilitate communications. So we're delighted to have Kim Spahos and the Conference of District Attorneys, and certainly all of the partners that we've been working with reference to the Adult Protective Services. But it is an additional platform for communicating, and we look forward to talking more about that.
Well, great. Thank you so much. All right. We're going to take a short break, allow people to refresh their coffee, hit the restroom, whatever you need to do before we continue the meeting. So we'll adjourn again at 11:05. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back.
You had to think fast on your feet this morning, didn't you, Pam Palmer? I know you don't, you're muted, but so I can't hear you, but you do not like building the plane while you're flying it. You hate that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad we had the experience, but it did not work. We
Oh, it didn't?
lost the findings people. So that's something we definitely need to look into the future. So I don't know, since I won't be using WebEx at the next November meeting, if we're hosting it through Kevin, maybe they have some experience with it or whatever. The one of the signers also did mention that they had been using it on Teams, so we could look at that if we ever get Teams working well.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It came such a surprise to us all that.
Yeah, I'm going to send her an email and apologize and, say if we had known in advance, we could have planned a little better and had a little more practice. So,
yeah. So it's just one other way that I didn't even, in my mind, it didn't even occur to me that there would be some, a different way of approaching it and, to meet that need.
yeah.
But thank you for complying with it as graciously as you did.
We tried. We gave it a good shot.
Pam, I'll touch base with you later on about that to see how we can do it when we have our next one.
Yeah, and he did say they had done it on Teams and Zoom, so I know there's a way, and I contacted our IT, but of course haven't had a chance to talk to them. And the method that Kimberly's IT said apparently didn't work, although it should have. So I don't know if we use your WebEx events, there's probably a way to do it on events instead of meetings.
Yeah.
Or he said Teams work, so we can look at that.
Got it.
All right. I think thanks everybody for coming back to the meeting. We appreciate it. And again, thanks to our great speakers. At this point in time, we'd like to have some committee reports. If anybody has any to report, the first one is the communications team, who is Laura Slaba, and we have a new member of that team, a new co-chair. It's Autumn Cox. So Laura, do you want to give us any updates?
Sure. We wanted to welcome Autumn Cox, like you said, and the board is actually looking at updating their website. So we have a meeting coming up in October to discuss what our options we can integrate to a new website. So if you have any suggestions, feedback, that would be awesome. Just shoot me an email. I can put my information in the chat box. And we're excited to look into WebEx for a virtual platform hosted by the Department of Insurance and Kevin. So we're excited to look into WebEx for future conferences and whatnot.
Thank you, Laura. Next is the Education Committee, and that's co-chaired by Ann Elmore and Cheryl Mavens. Ann, Cheryl, do you guys have anything to update us on?
Yes. On Monday, September 21st, we're having our planned conference planning meeting virtually. If anyone is interested in helping out with the planning of our 2021 conference, please let Ann and I know, and we'll send you an email link to the meeting. I'll put our email in the chat box here. And also, if you have any ideas on possible conference topics or subject matter that you would like to learn more about, please let us know. And you can email that to myself and Ann. And I think Ann has something she would like to share.
Yes, indeed, I do. Thank you very much, Chevelle and Laura. On November 18th, that will be our next general meeting to which everybody is invited. Our speakers at that general meeting will be Angela Ellis and Felissa Farrell. They are with the DSS Directors Association. and they will speak about the Directors Association roadmap. So we look forward to seeing all of you and lots of your colleagues at that November 18th meeting. Please look for that on the ncpaa.org website. Thank you.
Unmute yourself, Laura.
Thank you, John. Nancy, do you all have anything to share from the Advocacy Committee?
A couple of things. Yes, thank you, Laura. First of all, Laura Cockman and I are going to be doing a short presentation tomorrow afternoon at the regular meeting of the National Network of State Elder Justice Coalitions. The North Carolina Partnership to Address Adult Abuse is a member of this national network of state elder justice coalitions, and they spotlight particular states' coalition. And this month, at tomorrow's meeting, it'll be the partnership that's spotlighted. So we're excited about that opportunity. That's not exactly advocacy, but it's kind of advocacy. And we continue to work with the Division of Aging and Adult Services staff. One of our projects for advocacy this year got cut a little bit short last February, March, but we're still pursuing the use of county-specific stories about adult protective services that the partnership will use to share with legislators from your county. If there are any folks on today's meeting who work for County Department of Social Services around adult protective services, and you wonder why on earth you're being asked for these stories and how you can contribute to improving North Carolina's APS system, your stories of particularly challenging situations, situations where you've had success, or situations where you've encountered kind of insurmountable difficulties. We want those stories through the Division of Aging and Adult Services, and so that the partnership can share them with specific legislators to start to tell a story that is understandable and believable and way beyond data and statistics. So we're looking forward to getting that rolled out too.
Great, thank you. The Awareness Committee, John Marion, Stephanie Bias, you all have any updates for us?
Stephanie, why don't you go? Stephanie? Okay, well, I don't know what she's got. Kevin may be able to talk a little bit about what Chip's got going on. I know this is, y'all are coming into your crazy period. From the Secretary of State's office, I mean, Ann and I have been sidetracked a little bit, sidelined, I guess, with COVID, as everybody else has. We're still doing some stuff. Ann is probably a little bit more outward bound than I am at the moment. I've been sort of tasked with some other little projects. One of which was referenced earlier, the Helpful Project. And I just wanted to circle back. Thanks, Ann. Today was WebEx Day, apparently, and another organization that I'm part of was supposed to have had a meeting. That's why I was late getting to this one. Anyway, I just wanted to underscore the fact that the Helpful Project is sort of starting to come around and meet at different points. And it started off as just a way for investment firms to send information out to APS and to state securities regulators about suspected areas of fraud. We've been Ann and I have been in near constant communications with the project managers, along with Sarah Manna-Smith and Laura Greganis over at DHHS, about ways of maybe expanding the program to include law enforcement, local law enforcement, and the prosecutors, so that we'll have a way through an electronic platform of having the reporters, the investigators, and hopefully ultimately the prosecutors all working on the same platform to hopefully increase outcomes. And the way I see outcomes is additional prosecutions of elder abuse and exploitation. So the project managers are located in New York. There are other states and other jurisdictions that are involved, but we apparently are the ones that are bringing the most to the table, North Carolina. And so they're now looking at maybe making North Carolina a pilot project state to unveil this more comprehensive platform. So we'll see. I mean, it's still early stages, but I just wanted to continue to reinforce in the minds of the folks that are doing this, frontline folks, the APS workers, to be aware of what's going on and to help participate in this. And we'll be doing some trainings throughout the year on into 2021 virtually on how the platform works and how to report things to us and other law enforcement. So we're really excited about this. I think North Carolina is positioned. We are in a good place to lead the nation in this. And I think it's just perfect timing to have the prosecutor's manual come out at the same time. I just think everything's sort of falling into place, and I'm really, really excited about this. So that's how I've been spending a lot of my time. So I'll hush. I'll quit beating the dead horse. Stephanie, do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys got going on?
Yes. As you know, open enrollment is upon us. It will be here soon, October 15th through December the 7th. Our 100 counties in the state of North Carolina are working very hard, as well as the national programs all across the country are working very hard to try to figure out the best way to reach our folks that we help each year to select a drug plan or a Medicare Advantage plan, to understand what's going to be good for them for the next year if they're ready to make a change. We are working very hard, as I said, on that. There's going to be very little face-to-face. In fact, the regional managers, of which there are 5 regional managers, are not. I'm one for a temporary basis because Gary Knutson retired last Friday, and I'll be supporting the counties in the central region. We're working very hard to make sure that we know what's going on, but the RMs, I'm used to being a road warrior. Working virtually. A lot of our agencies are closed to the public. Some folks are even closed, period, and still working from home. But we're trying to make this work just like everybody is across the country. I also wanted to talk a little bit. Kevin's got a little video that he wants to talk about. We are having the virtual caregivers conference. Well, it's free to everyone. On Thursday, October the 22nd is going to be free. North Carolina Senior Medicare Patrol Program, housed within SHIP, the Department of Insurance, is proud to be a sponsor of one of those presentations. I will have already filmed that presentation at Triangle out at Transitions and talk about all types of fraud against seniors as far as it relates to health care and preserving their benefits so that their benefits will be around for many years to come. And also talking to those folks about the scams that are associated with the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic. There are concerns about those and investing. And, I think I go back to my friend and colleague, John Marin and Elmore, about all the things that they talk about, ways to invest your money. People think they're going to get rich because there's going to be a ground level that you can get on for a cure for COVID and a vaccine for COVID. Good for them. Anyway, we are making sure that folks know that that is a ruse, that is something that is not appropriate. And so we are actually, Kevin and I are going on the radio with Triangle Guiding Lights the day before the conference and, just be heavy hitting home about some of the things that are concerning to us as a department and how we hope to make sure that folks that we are reaching are right there, and know that they have one-stop shop with us at the Department of Insurance, and we want to do everything we can. All of our coordinating sites and all of our volunteers want to make sure that, and partners, that we are preventing fraud the best way that we know how. We're not out, as I said, traveling. Kevin, have you got your video up, ready to show?
Stephanie, I put the link for the virtual caregiver summit, the short video that they have in the chat box. I also added the link to register for the caregiver summit in the chat box as well. So please take your time and watch those, and we hope you all can join for that virtual caregiver summit as well.
I think that is great because, it's usually been located just in the Triangle, folks, from around the Triangle, and we've really concentrated those efforts within the Triangle. But hey, we're going worldwide. We're ready for folks. So folks all across the country, Nicole Bruno and her wonderful staff at Transition Guiding Lights would be delighted for you to come. And I think Rosalind, you on here? Rosalind Pettiford, I think she's involved with speaking at some of those on that day.
And Ann and the secretary will be on it.
And Pam's registered, so good going, Pam Palmer.
Yeah, and Ann Elmore and the secretary, Elaine Marsh, will be as well part of it. Stephanie, I'm not sure if the world is ready for you.
Hey, listen, guys, at least I'm back home. I'm still on my walker. At least I'm back home in my house. I can't find anything because my cousin's reorganized and purged, but y'all know how this is. So I'm at least home. I haven't been home since July of 2019.
Well, we're glad you made it back home.
I am glad to have made it back home. I'm navigating these steps like a champ.
Good for you.
It's good exercise, and I'm old and my knees. I'm a Medicare beneficiary, folks, since I've seen you the last. I'm 65 in August, got my card, Part A only, working still.
All right, membership and nominating committee. Kevin, have you got anything for us?
At this time, I really don't have any update. I do want to say a special thank you to Nancy for getting our guest speakers for today's meeting. They both were awesome. That was wonderful. And thanks to John and Ann, and for those that are part of the committee that have been helping to write the manual for the Conference of DAs. So special thank you to you guys. And I also want to say a special thank you to Chevelle and Ann for what they've done with Coordinator Conference, and already planning for next year's conference for a two-part conference. So thank you, ladies, for all that y'all have done. I just wanted to give those shout-outs.
Yep, everybody works hard, and we appreciate it. We surely do. I think we'll go on next to the items for discussion. The first thing we need to discuss today is the partnership doing a sponsorship at the Coalition on Aging annual meeting. We normally do this at the lowest level, but they have asked us to do it again, and as it's coming up pretty quickly, we will need to vote on it today so that we can officially do that. Would anybody like to make a motion that we do the sponsorship for the Coalition on Aging? Pam Palmer? Okay. Anybody want a second?
I would.
Nancy?
Yeah,
all right. All those in favor say aye.
I have
Anybody
saying aye.
Anybody opposed? Great. So we'll go ahead and do that sponsorship for the Coalition on Aging annual meeting. The other thing I just wanted to mention and give people a chance to comment on if they want to before our next executive committee meeting is, at the current time, the partnership is basically a public-private. We're not a corporation. However, we are getting ready to have some discussion on incorporation, and we've arranged to come and speak to the executive committee on incorporation. And Elmore, of course, has given us some information, but we also have some other information coming to our next executive committee meeting, so we can really decide if we want to move forward towards incorporating the partnership into a 401c3 corporation or not. And I would just invite all of you, even if you're not on the executive committee, if you have any thoughts, either pro or con, about us moving towards incorporation, if you would put them in the chat box for us so that we can consider all that when the executive committee is looking at it and hearing from our speakers at our next meeting. So if y'all have any thoughts, like I said, good or bad, pro or con, about us incorporating the partnership, please let us know so that we can consider everybody's thoughts on that. Next, we move to member updates. I guess at this point, we'll open the floor. If there's anybody who wants to speak or update us on any activities your agency or county is doing in relation to adult protective services, we'd certainly like to hear from you. Anybody?
Laura, this is Kevin Robertson. I want to point out that Pam added a message in the chat that we need to vote for the approval to join the Coalition on Aging for this year. And I would like to make that motion that we do join.
Thank you.
And looks like Ann Elmore is seconding.
Great. All right. So we need to vote on joining the Coalition on Aging. Everybody in favor, say aye. Point their thumb, whatever. Anybody opposed? All right. So that motion passes so that we can join the Coalition on Aging. Great. All right. So now we'll move on to member updates. Thank you, Pam, for keeping us on track there. Appreciate it. Anybody have any updates they'd like to share? I noticed we have quite a few adult program reps on with us. They're consultants to all the counties. Do you all have any updates for us?
Hi, everybody. We've been working hard. Can you hear me?
Just barely. Is that April?
It is. Can you hear me?
All right. Can you speak up for us, April?
All right. We are doing a lot of work with training at the state level. We have a lot of new webinars. We've completely revamped our APS curriculum.
April, we can't hear you.
I have to let Kathy do it if she's on.
Can you turn your volume up?
She mentioned someone by the name of Kathy, if they were on, that she would allow them to do it. I'm not sure if that person is on the call or not. I did hear April say that they have been updating their website.
Okay, April, try again.
A lot of new classes.
All right, can you hear me now?
Not really.
It's still very faint, April.
Can you turn your volume up, April?
No, I'm on my mobile device. I was having some computer issues, so it says hi.
Oh.
But I'll put the update in the chat.
Okay, April said she's going to put it in the chat for us.
Okay, great.
So I'm going to go back to what Stephanie was saying earlier about all the local SHIP coordinating sites in the state are ready for open enrollment, and a lot of the will be virtual counseling this year. Of course, as Stephanie mentioned, we're still trying to spread the word about potential fraud out there happening about COVID, or people trying to say that there's already a vaccine, or trying to get people to do cheek swabs. So those are all fraudulent activities, and you can always contact the SHIP office and speak with our folks at the Senior Medicare Patrol Program in SHIP, and we'll be able to take the information so that we can help forward it on to the feds. We're also hearing of some fraudulent activities that they're kind of going old school, that they're trying to fax in information to doctors' offices regarding trying to get durable medical equipment or other prosthetics or devices for individuals. Just know that that has been ramped up too during the COVID with the scammers trying to go back old school since they haven't had a lot of phone call activity during this time. So just know that if you hear your clients or something saying that a doctor's office called about receiving a fax or something, let the doctor's offices know that they can contact our program as well, and that if we could get access to the copies of those faxes, that we would be able to submit those to the Office of Inspector General for them to look at prosecuting. And just recently, well, we were told yesterday on a state meeting that the Western District out of Charlotte had a case that was over $900,000 that has been restitution from some providers in North Carolina that finally came to light, or it was finalized, the case was this past week. I don't have the information for the providers, but I know that you could go to the OIG's office to the news release and get a article about the cases that they recently finalized as well. So that's all the update I got for you, Laura.
Okay, thank you. I know Ann Elmore wanted to say a little something. Ann? I think you're muted.
Thank you, Laura. Just wanted to mention, although we've been slowed down by the pandemic restrictions and a lot of our senior centers, well, they're all closed, I want to reach out to you all and let you know that we are doing fraud prevention sessions by webinar. Secretary of State's office can host events via WebEx if you don't have a platform. But also, remember that this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us. You know, the police are now exploring things like ShotSpotter, early warning systems of trouble to let them know so that they can respond quickly to prevent situations from getting out of hand. Well, you all of us working in the field are, in essence, ShotSpotters. And so the Secretary of State has a program that we would love to bring to your community. In the before times, we actually had sessions for lunch and learn for some of our DSS offices to acquaint them with the warning signs and whom to connect with regarding different issues that may come up that actually intersect with our office. And we have investigators on staff who can actually pursue complaints, investigate complaints. And just wanted to remind everybody that this is an opportunity, both if you know of small groups of seniors, maybe we could have coffee and conversation over a web platform, or, you know, even training for our staffs. This is a golden opportunity for lunch and learns that are as convenient as our own desk. So thank you, and please do think of us at the Secretary of State's office.
I see that April Black with the APRs has posted some information in the chat box. If y'all want to direct your attention there to all the things they've been doing, it looks like regionalization is going to come about, and they're going to be able to provide more support to counties. And they've also revamped the whole APS basic skills curriculum, which is exciting. And I know they're anxious to roll that out across the state. So thank you, April, for that update. Rosalind Pettiford. Rosalind, anything from the Senior Tar Heel Legislature that's going on you think everybody would want to know? I think you're muted, Roz.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Thanks for asking. The only thing we have to report at this time is that we will be meeting virtually for our October meeting. At that time, we're going to be looking at our priorities for the legislative priorities for the coming year, and we're probably going to still include funding for the Adult Protective Services Program.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, Heather Burkhart with Division of Aging and Adult Services. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, Laura, I'm with the Coalition on Aging now.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Heather, I'm sorry. Yes, but is there anything from the Coalition on Aging? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just excited to be here and see so many familiar faces. So I just want to say hello and introduce myself to those who don't know me. But I'm serving as the new executive director of the coalition, and all of about 3 weeks old now. So I'm still pretty new. But it's wonderful to see you. It was great information today, and I'm just excited to see all the momentum around APS and all this additional training and resources out there. So just hello, and also thank you guys for your continued support and membership and sponsorship of our annual meeting. I'm going to put our link in the chat there if anybody's interested. We've got several people already committed, and glad you're here. I think you're right, Stephanie, when you said it's a busy time virtually, and all these fall conferences are still happening, and it's really giving people an opportunity to come to meetings they never would have ever been able to travel or to attend. So we're glad to see that we've got some really good statewide coverage. And I know Jane Jones has her event on the same day, so we're having some competition, but that's all right. We're all friends here, and there's plenty of good information to share. So hello, and thank you guys.
Thank you, Heather. And also, I noticed John Marin. John, do you want to talk for a second about the information from Jane that you put on the chat box?
I think it's self-explanatory. I just wanted folks to know. I didn't know if Jane was on or not. Yeah, it's going to be on September 25th from 11 to 2. She's doing her Modern Times, Modern Crimes event virtually. She's got Paul Greenwood, we all know and love, as keynote. She always puts on a good show. So I just want folks to know about it.
Great, thank you. Chevelle, I noticed you put some information on the chat box about older adult mental health workshop. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I partnered with a company in Charlotte that do a lot of holistic preventative work with older adults, and they partnered with me to do a workshop with them to talk about older adult mental health and substance use, and also look at, I guess, alternative ways of working with mental health to be proactive, to deal with early on in mental health stages. And that will be October 29th. It's an hour and a half from 1 to 2:30 is a webinar. So more information, you can go to the website to register.
And again, Chevelle put that link there in the chat box for you guys. Also, Pam Palmer wanted to remind everybody that we are recording the session today. So if you'd like to go to our website and look at that, you can certainly do that. How about from the counties? Any county APS folks want to share anything your counties are doing? I'll give you just a second to unmute if you're muted. Okay, I think that's all the sharing we have for today then. So I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the meeting. It looks like unless someone else, John wants to make that motion. A second? Anybody want to second that? Ann Elmore? All right, everybody in favor, say aye. All right, anybody opposed? Thanks everybody for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on November the 18th. Bye-bye.
Bye.